Several years ago, Fantasy Flight Games released Arkham Horror the card game, a celebrated cooperative campaign-based exploration into Lovecraftian madness, but it took a full 5 years for me to give a damn. No, the game itself hasn't changed, other than the mountain of content that has come out since then. It's still the same challenging and immersive game now that it was at release, but the very model the game was based on has evolved. From its inception, Arkham Horror has followed the cycle release of the company's other LCGs, with one major box release and several follow-up blister packs of supporting content. While it's a dumb system from a consumer standpoint in any circumstance, it was less egregious with Arkham's predecessors like the competitive Android Netrunner or the more similar Lord of the Rings the card game. Both followed a narrative, but neither had a strict campaign structure in the outset, so the cards you had were what you used, and it didn't impact how complete the game already felt if you didn't have access to one pack or another, which was bound to happen if you weren't buying the things as they came out, because LCG packs are notorious for being between print runs or other varying degrees of availability. Missing an Arkham pack was another thing altogether. From the very first expansion, The Dumb Witch Legacy, you would get new investigators and the beginning missions of that cycle's campaign in the box release, then supporting cards for the investigators and the rest of the campaign's missions would be purchased through these blister packs. Let's imagine that you're reading a book and the first 3 chapters of that book are available at the start and the remaining 6 chapters were sold separately. But it's been a year since the book came out and now only chapters 5, 6, and 8 are available. For a campaign designed as one cohesive experience, even if they are branching paths, I think you can see the problem at hand. For years, in spite of playing the game several times with friends and acknowledging how great the design, writing, artwork, and just overall game system is, I felt the model was wasteful, anti-consumer, and way too prone to unsatisfying ends that I could not commit to the game nor recommend it on this channel, which is a shame because even then I thought the game uniquely knocked some concepts out of the park, from building a navigatable structure with interconnected paths that gives a surprisingly potent sense of space, to the test modifiers, where the pool itself can be adjusted to scale difficulty and several tokens are symbolic variables bearing effects dictated by the scenario. But a couple important changes have happened. First, 2021 saw the release of the revised core set. Fundamentally, it's the same core set as the original, with the same 3 missions, the same 5 investigators, and largely the same pool of cards with a few changes here and there. The most monumental shifts are that it's expanded to have enough cards to accommodate the full 4-player count without having to buy a second core set, and everything is pre-packaged and tutorialized so you can learn and play straight out of the box. Pick out a character, use their pre-constructed deck, and start with the pre-constructed first mission. Don't want a simplified version of the game? Great! The core set comes with enough extra cards to modify or build new investigator decks from scratch. But the revised core set acknowledges the need to make the game more accessible and user-friendly. Add to this a box design for better storage over the old FFG mini box good for virtually nothing other than selling the game at a store, and you really feel like buying into Arkham gives you a decent amount to work with while preparing you for adventures to come. Next, FFG has announced that both the upcoming Edge of the Earth and a re-release of the aforementioned first expansion cycle, Dumb Witch Legacy, will follow a new format, where all of the content for each expansion will be made available in 2 boxes. One containing all the new campaign materials for you to face off against, and the other all of the new investigator content completely independent of one another, leaving you to decide what you want to add to your collection. This is so much more reliable and consumer-friendly that it marks a dramatic change in my feelings on the game and shines some much-needed positive light on a company that's fallen a bit from grace over the past few years. Now, a game rightly celebrated for its branching storylines, intuitive yet deep deck construction, and rich strategic gameplay is something I can wholly get behind. Sure, I do still have my criticisms. The core set's 3-mission campaign may have some varying outcomes and critical decisions to be made in each scenario, bearing thematic and gameplay implications for the missions to come, but ultimately it's too Spartan of a campaign to recommend the core set if you never intend to get expansions. An alternate mission or two, or a separate new additional 3-mission campaign could have been done. Also, fans of the game have long turned to third-party tools to mark connections between locations, because in spite of the color, symbol, keys system technically doing the job, the at-a-glance of visibility of physical markers, as seen in my spookily painted popsicle sticks, helps a ton. I think some simple connector tokens to help manage the madness, especially in more complex scenarios, should have come stock. But these feel like minor quibbles in an otherwise excellent game. If you like cooperative games with heavy narrative and tough choices that scale spectacularly from solo play all the way to the full player count, with accessible yet rich deck construction, I'm happy to finally say, so long after the initial release, that I highly recommend Arkham Horror, the card game.